There was a time when modern games held your hand. Clear objectives, generous checkpoints, and difficulty settings that made sure almost anyone could reach the end. Then, in 2009, something very different arrived, and most players didn't even notice it at first. It didn't explain itself, it didn't care if you failed, and it absolutely didn't want you to feel comfortable. But for the people who stuck with it, something clicked. What started as a niche, brutally punishing experience would go on to influence an entire generation of games and create one of the most respected genres in modern gaming. Today, we're taking a look at the full evolution of the Soulsborne series, from its rough beginnings to global domination, and why these games keep pulling players back in no matter how many times they die. It all begins with Demonsouls. Released on the PlayStation 3, this was a risky project from developer From Software, a studio that wasn't exactly a household name at the time. Early reactions weren't glowing, and Sony themselves weren't confident enough to publish it globally, but players who gave it a chance discovered something special. The game dropped you into a bleak, fragmented world with very little guidance. Its systems were unforgiving, its tone was oppressive, and death came quickly. Yet every defeat taught you something. Every victory felt earned. It wasn't just a difficult game, it was deliberate. And that philosophy became the foundation for everything that followed. If Demon Souls laid the groundwork, then Dark Souls perfected it. This is where the formula truly came together. A dark fantasy world, deeply interconnected, where shortcuts looped back into themselves in ways that felt almost magical. There wasn't a map, there wasn't a quest log, it was just you, your instincts, and the environment. Combat was slow and methodical, every swing mattered and every mistake had its consequences. But what really set it apart was the world design. Bloodborne felt like a real place, crumbling, mysterious, and full of stories hidden in item descriptions and environmental details. It wasn't like you were just progressing through levels, it was like you were piecing together a world and its story. And that word spread quickly. This wasn't just another RPG, it was something really different. When Dark Souls 2 came along, it took a slightly different approach. With a new director at the helm, the game leaned more into variety, more bosses, more locations, more build options. It didn't have the same tightly interwoven world as its predecessor, but it still offered scale and experimentation. Some fans at the time were divided on this one, but over time appreciation for it has grown. It introduced mechanics like power stancing, expanded PvP systems, and a huge amount of replayability. It may not always get the same praise as the others, but it played an important role in expanding what Souls games could be. Then came Bloodborne, and everything sped up. Gone were the shields and slow defensive playstyles. In their place was aggression, fast dodges, relentless enemies, and a combat system that rewarded you for pushing forward instead of backing away. The gothic horror setting gave the game a completely different identity. Victorian streets soaked in blood, twisted creatures, and a constant sense that something wasn't quite right. The rally system that they introduced, where you could regain health by striking back quickly after taking damage, encouraged risk-taking in a way that felt completely fresh. It was still unmistakably a Souls game, just sharper, faster, and far more intense. For many players, this is where the formula truly peaked. Dark Souls 3 felt like a culmination. It blended the weight and structure of the original with the faster pacing introduced in Bloodborne. The result was a smoother, more refined experience that still held on to the familiar challenge. Boss design reached another level here, with encounters feeling cinematic without losing their bite, and the variety kept things interesting all the way through. There was also a sense of finality to it, a world collapsing in on itself, tying together things from across the whole series. It didn't try to reinvent anything, instead it polished what worked and delivered one of the most consistent entries in the lineup. Then, From Software did something completely unexpected. Sekiro stripped away a lot of the RPG elements entirely. No builds, no armor sets, no summoning help. Instead, it just focused purely on precision. Sekiro's combat became a rhythm game of sorts, with deflecting, countering and breaking posture. It demanded timing and confidence rather than just cautious play. Stealth also played a bigger role, giving players more options in how they approached encounters. It was easily one of the most challenging games, but also one of the most satisfying ones once it clicked. And despite it being very difficult, it still carried the same DNA as the others, tough but fair, with a strong sense of mastery for those who gave it the time. Then came the game that took everything to another level, Elden Ring. For the first time, the Souls formula went fully open world, and somehow it just worked. The Lands Between offered freedom that previous games didn't. If something felt too difficult, you could simply go somewhere else, level up and come back stronger. It kept the core combat and design philosophy intact, but gave players more choice in how they experienced it. Exploration became just as important as combat, with hidden dungeons, unexpected bosses and moments of discovery everywhere. It managed to bring the genre to a much wider audience without losing what made it special, and the success spoke for itself. So why do these games connect with so many players? Well, I think it comes down to a few key things. Firstly, the challenge with a purpose. These games don't punish you randomly, they teach you. Every failure is part of the learning process. Secondly, it's got to be the world design. Nothing is ever handed to you. You explore, you interpret, and you uncover the story yourself. And finally, that feeling of overcoming something difficult. Very few games deliver the same level of satisfaction when everything finally clicks. All of these games respect your time by demanding your effort. So that's the journey, from a risky, overlooked release to one of the most influential styles of game design we've seen in years. And their impact is still growing. You can see it in countless modern titles that take inspiration from its formula, but there's still nothing quite like the originals. Now I'd love to hear from you guys. What's your favourite Soulsborne game and which one gave you the hardest time? Drop it in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video today, make sure to like, subscribe and check out the rest of the channel. Thanks again for watching and I'll catch you in the next one.